Hadrien, Chatlet, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm good, and you, Tal?
Thank you for coming over to the show.
Thank you.
Let's start with who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why do you do it?
So fun that. So as you said, my name is Hadrien Chatlet. I'm a designer focusing on branding. What I'm doing at the moment, I'm the creative director of a company called consultancy called the Wern, and we specialize on PR and branding for startup, pure entrepreneurs, and small business. Why am I doing that? Um, because I want to find a bit more purpose in what I'm doing and be able to do it for small business and be able to do it directly with the owners is definitely more purposeful. So that's why I'm doing that at the moment.
It's not what you set out to do initially, right? Take us back to the beginning before your professional career.
Before my professional career,
How did you realize you're a creative person? Was it something you understood about yourself growing up?
God, yeah, it's a bit of a long journey. I think early on you realize that you don't really clearly realize you're different from the other one, or you especially that different, but just your way of thinking, and you kind of always want to see stuff differently and create from your hand, from your brain. You see problem as something fun, something you need to solve with different way of doing it. So from very much an early age, I wanted to express myself and show creative way of doing everything, and that's how I kind of realized I was definitely a creative. And it's very much later on when I was around my mid 20, I really clearly understood that my brain was working, in a quite strange way, but
Mid
in a good
20s.
way. Yeah, mid 20s, because before you kind of like you try to be conventional, you try to follow the what the society tell you to be, the way you need to learn, the way you need to behave, to write, and you think that you just struggle a bit to learn basically. And then it's only really much when I started my career when I realized actually it doesn't matter if I don't write properly, is actually my way of thinking the world and looking at stuff differently is my values, and that's why I can bring to other. And actually normality and baseline is not really interesting. It doesn't bring any value to no one, and is the one a creative person. Obviously everyone have something to say, but it's very interesting to have someone who says something different, even though you like it or it's right or wrong, but at least it pushed us to be better and to see stuff differently.
What were you doing up until that point? You had some school, you must have had some work.
So yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I did. Obviously, I tried to be as normal as possible. My parents wanted me to have good grade, but I kind of was a bit rebellious, and I started doing some graffiti. I started wanting to do my own stuff, and I dropped out of school many times because I'm like, I can do that. I just want to do stuff, not just being told how the concept of doing stuff. And so I started. I think I was about 16 years old when I was doing some street art in my hometown of Nice, and I was quote ended doing so on a famous fashion shop windows display, and I thought I was gonna go to prison this day, but basically the owner asked me to do it properly for him, and from that on I was doing windows displays and ads for the sales on my street in Nice, and that's how I started to do my job. And there I started to realize, okay, I can do some fun stuff with that, and from this point I started studying more graphic design and art, and it came to lead to advertising quite quickly.
So you were 16, you did a graffiti on a shop,
Yeah,
basically vandalizing.
but yeah, basically you have the window. When I always do street art and graffiti, I think about the place first, and then I think what I want to do in this place, and it's always a. It's funny, we were talking earlier with that. It's all about the story, right? If you don't have a story, you have nothing. If you have a story, you can bring anyone everywhere. And the idea is like you have a beautiful shop, love what they were doing at the time, and a massive white wall next to it. I'm like, oh, we should do something. And I'm like, oh, they're really innovative on the type of fashion they were doing. So I'm like, oh, they're disrupting of fashion. So I create a switch with a long wire with a massive plug plugging into the wall, into the windows display, and I'm writing like basically this brand blah blah is a switch of fashion, and it was quite clever, and the guy loved it because in some way it was quite positive for him, and he asked me to do it like properly with paint and much bigger
How did you know? How did he know it was you?
because I have a kind of clear style of the way I was doing. I was always using like some white paper. I was doing that with a very big, thick black pen, and then I was gonna glue it with like wallpaper glue on the wall. And from there, I did some other one where I doing like some kind of like weird scooter called a Solex. It's very tiny, and I had that massive print and was saying like basically keep on going in your life, always keep on going. So you take your Solex and you go. You don't think about anything, take risk. And I was doing that everywhere, and basically saw me doing that again. And at this point, I didn't know it was him, and he caught me behind me and just, hey, I know you did that in my window, but please, let's chat. I want to chat, don't run.
Very, very cool. So you didn't realize that like you didn't do it to land a job. You did it because
no. But funny enough, like now I'm rethinking about it. For me, just like I was just doing it because I wanted to do it and because I just wanted to express myself. But in the world of today, it's basically how I get most of my work is basically by doing stuff and sharing about it, and people see what I'm doing, then go to me because they're like, oh, we like your point of view. Can you help us with some other stuff?
So how you've done some graffiti, then you started getting paid for it. What was your first real job?
My first real job, actually, it's all about luck and all about going somewhere might be you can get something from it. So in France, when you don't get job, you can go to it's called Adecco. You have that in the US as well. It's like a recruitment company, and they're gonna place you for like one day there to do anything. Like you can just one day clear some tree, the other day you're gonna paint, the other day do that. And I got my job into just doing painting, but like paint the wall in several colors at a massive shop called a retail shop called Les Galeries Lafayette. It's basically John Lewis, French John Lewis. It's quite well known and like it's quite big. And as soon as I arrived in this job, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do everything I can to get fully employed over there and doing actually design for them and not just painting the wall in white. And after like 2 weeks, it's funny, the main manager was a woman, terrifying woman, and my boss underneath was like really kind old man who was really creative but not really want to push too much because he was scared about the big boss, a bit like the devil wear Prada. It's quite fun. And one day I'm like, I want to break out of just doing white wall, and I basically paint a fresco of flowers for a brand. I was fitted the brand, and I did some cutting vinyl and stuff to do something much prettier. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, if I get scream, I can just paint it back white. I don't care, I have nothing to lose. And my direct boss came to see me. He's like, Hadrien, I don't know what you have done, but they love it and they want you to do more. And basically, the main boss went to see my boss and say, that's amazing what you're doing with the flowers and stuff. It's fantastic. I want to see more of that. And from this day, first of all, I had a full-time job with them, and I basically have a green card to do whatever I want everywhere.
Wow.
And that was my first fun job. In France, we have a very strange description of what is legal and illegal. We kind of, it's a gray area. And quite quickly after that, I quit this job to start, I think it's really much for my mom, sorry to say that, but I started a BA in finance, business administration school in finance, that my mom could have placed me there. And it was just me like worrying to not be able to do anything with my creativity and not be able to be like a success as we talk about, like with all things what is success about. So yeah, I went to do that for 4 years, and that's what led me here in the UK.
Wow. Because when you think about it, your mom knew your creativity, he knew all the trouble you must have gotten yourself into at school, dropping out, and she still put you in finance school.
The thing is, like, I did ask for it because I was not sure about myself with the pressure around me, like just the social pressure. It doesn't need to be even someone. And I think my parents did the best of what they knew, because for them, the definition of success was to have a house, a big car, and earning this amount of money, doing a job very structured and very organized, wearing a suit and a tie. That was the definition of success for them, and that's the success they had. So they wanted me to be successful, so therefore they give me all the possibility to be successful. And for that, I thank them. And it's only now seeing me, now I'm grown up, having everything I want, even more, by doing exactly what I love without completely freely, that they realize that, oh, maybe it's the definition of success.
Finance is what landed you in the UK eventually. How did you survive 4 years of finance when you're not an Excel sheet type of a person? You're more of a PowerPoint, Photoshop type guy.
I think one of the things creative people, and I think a lot of people as well have it, it's not only creative people, we are really, really interested. We have to look at everything, touch everything, think about everything, understand everything, because that's the way we process. And in some way, economical, finance and stuff like that's not fun. Like I want to be interested, I'm fairly good in mathematics and logical. So I think actually the access table can be quite satisfying when you put when you understand how to do all the sums and stuff and all the back end behind that. A bit like if you're building a website and after you change just variable and everything moves by itself, it's kind of cool. And you can design as well an Excel table. So I did enjoy a bit. The only thing is like what I said at the beginning of the interview is like you need to find purpose in what you're doing and how you do it and what you're doing for. And I quickly realized that finance for me was not purposeful. I didn't want to gamble on emerging country to do money. I didn't want to place bet on potentially life damaging situation and financing on playing with mortgage and stuff like that. So I'm like, that's definitely not something I feel right doing. So that's why I dropped out as well again.
More often than not, the combination of finance and creativity lands people in jail.
Yeah, it could. My thinking was more advertising, and it kind of paid out because it was not only finance, obviously, because you're doing a BA, so it's an introduction. So I'm doing a lot of finance, I'm doing a lot of economical, I'm doing a lot of marketing, and that actually was fairly good for me because I learned all the basics of marketing and even like managing people in company and that's definitely helped me when I came on board to having a team of people and how to manage as well how much I spend, what we're spending on how we're moving, and when we on the daily basis with my client, I understand the need, understand where they come from, I understand what they need to fulfill monthly in order to grow. It's not only my creative brain with fart ideas.
It rounds you up a little bit. You can speak in more languages even if you're not fluent in the other ones. It gives you enough to be dangerous.
Exactly.
So how old were you when you got to the UK?
Early 20s, 2021.
2021?
Yeah.
And walk me through what happens between then and now when you're a business owner, a father. You are in partnership with your co-founder. It's also the co-founder of your family.
Good. That's gonna be very good for your podcast. I don't know if I should share all that, but basically did the study at the Westminster University. You're a number, you have to stick to the rules and do quite well. I think it was 6 months before the end. I'm like, no, I just can't do that. It's over. I need to do design. And at the time I already started kind of a small wobbly business of doing websites using Flash. I don't know if you remember that. So I was kind of like, okay, I can do that. It can be fun. I want to do design. And so I dropped out. And at this time I was promoting parties. So I was working for Fabric and everything on the street, giving flyers and promoting party and doing my own party. And so that was quite fun. At the same time doing obviously the design of the flyer for everyone and doing website. And I met my ex-wife in London from South Africa. And I said, hey, I want to travel a bit. So went to South Africa. And then in South Africa, I said, I'm fairly good in design. I need to find a job in design. So I found a job in digital agency in Cape Town, and for all the creative people who want sunshine, go to Cape Town. Is absolutely insane. People are really, really extremely creative and in a really good way, and they have nothing. They come from nowhere, but they always bring the best. And I was astonished at the level of creativity over there, and they're an amazing agency. So I stayed there for about a year and a half over there. Work for this very tiny, half Italian, half South African company. We were doing website for Maxma, for Lavazza Coffee, and I started to learn all about like coding and how you do digital design that I never touched before. So that was a really, really good thing for me. And then we came back in France just to manage visa for my ex-wife. Worked in a really tiny publicity agency in Nice. I was basically the senior manager, doing everything from designing the sign, printing it, cutting, shaping it, going in place, talking with the client, putting the sign up, do advertising, campaign, all that. But it was quite fun because I had to do a lot in a very short time, so I had to learn to be precise and go straight to the right point and not faff around. But I did that probably for a year, something like that. That was before come back to UK and then having bigger job.
We'll go back to that because I think the all-aroundness is a theme.
Yeah.
You have to be really good at one thing, but proficient in others. And it's part of what you have to do when you're starting your own startup or building it. And it's also a part of why customers come to you today for their PR needs.
Yeah.
Because they know what they can do, but they also learn what they can't do.
Yeah.
And this is where you guys fit in. Okay, so let's keep going.
Yeah, very quickly. Then I went back to England. And at this time, I was able to land my first big job, at least in a big agency. And I remember going for the first interview. It was in Chiswick, and this building was massive. The company had 2 buildings linked together. And I called my mom and I said, I'm about to work in a meeting. I think I never worked for a company as big as that. I'm a bit scared, to be honest. And I don't know if I should fit inside of that, but I would go. And the meeting went very well. I was taken as a senior designer over there. And the company was mainly media, international, working on plenty of branding and campaign work. And I had my first few big success with them when I redone the full branding for the IPL League. It's a cricket league in India, but it's watched by more than 7 million people in the world. And I had to travel in India to go to all the stadium, managing people to do all the artwork and all that in massive scales. And basically, one quite interesting story, I was sitting in my favorite bar in London where I used to go when I didn't have any money, and they would literally feed me. And I was just going, I was really struggling. And 2 years after, I was sitting there and all the screen was playing the Indian Cricket League with all my design, and the BBC have took all my design to do all this stuff. So I was like, okay, that's fun. I can do that. But I definitely, there a lot of work to be done over there. But it was good. It was a good first big job. Then I quit, left this for a more conceptual agency in Shoreditch because I wanted to be able to understand a bit more, like, the storytelling, how you bring concept alive, how you create work with meanings and purpose rather than just work for the aestheticism of it. That was great. I did a year dot to dot over there, really intensive, and those 2 partners was coming from a big agency called Mike Kane, and I literally was sitting on meetings, even if it didn't need to be there, just to listen to them selling the ideas and talk about the idea and the way they take a client and they make them dream and bring some crazy story around that. And I thought that was fantastic, and I learned a lot with them. And after that, I left because the big agency I was just before completely changed, and it was a new vice president, and she met me and she wanted me to help her to grow a much bigger team, focusing on campaign work, focusing on creating idea storytelling. And yeah, I had a good raise to be creative director with a team of 12. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that. That can be fun.
Wow, that's scale.
Yeah, big scale. I grown like in the last, basically in 2 years, I realized I was going the wrong direction with my ex-wife. Cut that personally, change job 3 times and move 3 position up in 2-3 years time, and met Lucy, who's now my partner. We have 2 kids. So that was quick, but really exciting time at the same time, but hard.
Something you seem to be doing really well is to take one thing you do and use that to get into more interesting rooms, to open new territories for yourself. Okay, I can do graffiti, now let's use that to do work. Now I can do work, let's use that to become a digital designer. Let's use my digital design knowledge to do da. And I think that's a huge part of the journey for all of us. I don't know if you're intentional about how you went about it. It seems like a combination of a bit of even carelessness, like impulsiveness in a way, and luck, and just putting in the hours and doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you saying that because I never really thought about it. I think, yeah, I like, it's potentially a bit of luck, a lot of hard work, to be frankly honest, because when you put the hours and you make sure that every work, as small as it is, you do it to the maximum, you take as much as you can from it. Like, if it's just a presentation, just learn some new skills, how I can design that differently, I can push that differently, and share that and make sure people know that you have pushed something different. As a creative, and I always say that to all my designer, you don't work for the company. You work for yourself because you have the chance to build your own portfolio. Don't think about, yes, because some creative will say, oh, but I don't want to do extra hours. I'm like, the extra hours, you don't do them for you. You don't do them. You don't do them for me. You don't do them for the company. You do them for you. If you want to, if you want to grow, every extra hours you give is everything you can add to your portfolio will give you the next step.
Commercial work is sometimes a compromise for designers. The client wants this, get the logo bigger. Can we do this in yellow? And you're like, what the fuck?
It's hard. It's hard. It's tough because, and we will talk a bit more about that. I'm definitely in a shifting point in my career when I see the way I work differently. Since I joined the Wern and I work now basically for myself, the way I want. But before that, I would answer to that is you need to make sure you're the designer, you know that's your work. You know how to do it perfectly. If they want something, you have to work so hard that you make it work. And if you're not able to make it work, you need to find the amazing storytelling, even better than their own, in order to make them fall in love with something else, change the subject to make sure you're still doing a great job. But that sometimes you can't, and it's first of all, it's very hard to arrive to this point, and some clients are very stubborn. So if you're lucky, you can tell them you don't want to work with them because you don't believe in the project, or you do like most of us when that's happened, you just like have the balls to say it. Say I don't think that's right because that. Never say because you don't like it. It was personal. No, say like this is a fact. This is my learning. This is my professional view. This is why I don't think we should do it. But if you are the client, you are the last word. If we want to do it, you do it. I personally, from this point moving, I'm like, okay, I did it, but now I won't work for you anymore because I don't think I'm gonna do a great job for you, and I'm sure you can find another designer who would gladly potentially be cheaper and do it for you. But it's all about your purpose and make sure you do the right thing.
When you did the graffiti on the shop, you helped that person tell the story they wanted to tell about their brand. You did it intuitively. You liked what they were doing, you connected with it, and then you were able to do it. Now people come to you with this type of for this type of advice on the companies that they're founding right now. A big misconception on PR would be that it's only crisis resolution. It's only make me look good in the newspapers. It's only make that search result disappear. But you're saying no, it's actually something a lot bigger.
Yeah.
What should brands, entrepreneurs, startups expect from their PR partners?
I think it's like, are you talking the story directly with the founders, or are you talking the story with like a team of marketers representing other people, representing someone else? Because what is good to work with small company, or at least to be able to talk directly to the founders, is the story need to be the truth, need to be honest. Whatever you do, branding or PR, because first of all, people will see when it's not honest, and the way the company behave need to be the same way they show on the paper or they show with the brands. So the right work to do is to take the time to understand and make this company understand who they are and what the story. And if it's right, it's a right story, it's a truth, it's very easy to do whatever is post after money. But in some situation, when the company becomes too big, and it's quite common, actually large company, if they want to create the story from nothing, like, oh, we want to make sure people think of us about like this, and it's very hard as well to keep controlling the way the story come out, because obviously someone get fired and you guy arrive, and so it's always like a bit of a pivot because the story is not true, it's not really honest. So the advice is always like, whatever is post or after, is to make sure that we have discovered the right story, the true story of the company, and we work with that rather than some strategy kind of position.
Something that struck me a little funny is that if I'm a founder of a company, I know why I started this company. Why would I need help in telling that story?
Because you think you know, but actually you don't know.
I started a podcast, it's called Startup Nightmares, and I did that because I wanted to reduce the collateral damage in the innovation ecosystem.
Yeah, but I think that's not enough. That's what you think, because that's your way of describing it, as a logical way for you to describe it. But that just doesn't, even though it's already, your idea is already kind of a niche, and you kind of stand out from the competition of podcasts for that. But what we potentially try to dig with your story is maybe more 2 level down. Why you as a person, you feel you need to say this story. And it gets a bit more interesting and definitely a bit more personal, and you get to have more things to work with. And sometimes, as well, like I see Lucy doing every day, the right story is not potentially not the one you have in front of you. So, for example, the way you interview me, I can say you asked me who I was, what I'm doing, and I tell you I'm a graphic designer. I'm focusing branding for startup entrepreneurs. But the real interesting story we work on your podcast is how I get there, what my graffiti story and stuff. And it sounds stupid, but those are elements that no one have, and I have personally. But branding designer, you have them everywhere, and that doesn't make me special. What makes me special is my deeper story. So therefore, that's where PR and branding is interesting, when we talk to you and we understand a bit more about you and see which elements of your life, which element of your kind of path made what is this podcast perfect.
It's valuable. It's valuable, especially when you think of the clutter in the tech scene in general. You need a good story. You need a good story to break through. If you think of the ride hailing or the food delivering or the dating apps, like they work in a super crowded marketplaces. So the story, like the Bumble story, an executive who suffered from sexual harassment at work and didn't enjoy what the app at Tinder had to offer her. She's like, no, I can do it better. Why? Because I'm a woman, because I know what it feels like to be approached by unsolicited messages and so on. This is why I built this company, and this is how, and that story resonates.
Yeah, 100%.
So PR is not only about finding the right story and distilling it and having relationships with newspapers. It's also about making sure that you bring out the truth in a product, in a company, and you do it in a way that breaks through the clutter.
Yeah.
Initially, it could have been a great story, but now it's a new category in the market, and everyone that can compete over clicks and attention will do that. But are there any stories? Is there an emotional connection with your consumers, or is this a game of preferences? Who gives me the cheaper ride or more availability?
Yeah.
Fascinating. We mentioned Lucy a lot, but Lucy is not here. You work in a partnership, in a business partnership, in a domestic partnership. Husband and wife?
Not yet.
Not yet? Partners?
Yeah, partners.
Is there a wedding planned?
We talk about it, but there's so much stuff happening and time goes very fast. I think, in the future, I hope so. A bit like just for the society again. When
you said there's a lot of things happening, what's happening? What does a day in the life look like for you guys?
A day in the life? So I was made redundant a year ago, nearly, a couple of months more than that. The first thing we've done is we built an office garden on the back of our house to make sure we have a place to work and we don't need to travel far away. We have a very organized plan of who dropping the kid, when, how. So if I drop the kid, I would drop the kid and then come back home and just make breakfast and go straight to the office and then come back and fetch the other kid. But because we have 2 kids with Bo only 6 months, Lucy is still on maternity leave, so I took 2 mornings in the week, and she did the rest of the time to look after Bo. And Raphael, our oldest, is in nursery for 4 days. So it's about 5 to 6 hours in the office, and the rest of the time managing home. You're a creative person. You don't get to work when you have the muse now. You get to work when you have the time. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. And so when I was made redundant, we took the risk for me to join, and it was not really a race. It's like something I wanted to do, and I think it was the best time to do it for us. I had a bit of money ahead with the redundancy, and I was like, hey, if I don't do it now, we'll never do it. And our second child, Bob, was due to be born a couple of months after, so I wanted some time to be there as well. And life showed us as well that it was probably even a better choice when our second child, Bob, was born with a heart malformation. We had to spend 2 months in the hospital, and any job would have potentially fired me 3 weeks in, because that's the law in England. And to be fair, I couldn't not be able to work. Your head is completely out of the picture. To be creative, you don't even think about it. So be able to have that is good. The flexibility to take time when needed to be take time, but it brings a bit of a stress, obviously, because 2 months is 2 months without income. It's 2 months when you try to keep working and you try to think you're in control and you manage your client, but actually your brain is over there and you can't focus on which client is on, which client is not on, and you end up to see like, God, we don't have any work planned for the next 2 months. I'm like, so it can be a bit challenging, and we actually after that now we have a virtual assistant to help us with that, and that's really useful because you can switch off when needed to switch off, but someone keep looking to make sure the ball doesn't drop.
But speaking of a startup nightmare, so you were made redundant.
Yeah.
How old was Raphael at that point?
Raphael, a bit less than 2 years.
So still a baby.
Yeah,
still a baby. You were made redundant, and like you had a responsibility to provide for him, for yourself, for Lucy. Of course, Lucy is also working. But speaking of that situation, being made redundant, baby boy, another one coming, setting up a business, and then being 2 months out of work. Now, if you're an employee of a company, 2 months out of work, fine. You go back and you pick it up from where you left if they didn't fire you. But for an independent business in its early stages, missing out on 2 months of work, it's not just the 2 net months that you are away, it's the pipeline of business you were building and the business you potentially stand to lose.
Yeah. We lost, we thought we had 5 business click just after that, but many stuff happened with scale of Brexit and stuff that they all 5 dropped out. And I remember I was
5 of them dropped out.
I was very upset, and I actually had a call and I felt bad about it with one potential client, and I really wanted the business, and I sent a proposal. It was kind of dithering, and just because it was not the time for him to do it, and he had someone else, and it was nothing I could do. But I was fairly insisting and thinking in my head, you get in this call and you get the sign off, you get the money, you have this business, you don't let the call down until you have the business. So I was very insisting, but looking back, I'm like, it was stupid. It was just no point to be insisting on that, and it's no one fault in this point. And yeah, it was a bit of a stressful moment, but you get to be creative on those times and finding other way to bring money in.
You were laughing, but I'm shitting my pants because I realized the gravity of the situation. Like, on the micro level, one baby boy, one is coming. You were just made redundant, so I'm sure you wanted full health and full motivation. And you have 5 customers in the pipeline. And
I was just after Bo.
Just after
we came back from the hospital with Bo.
So you have to deal with a complicated medical situation at home, literally life or death, that sucks all of your time and energy and mental capacity. And the pipeline you've built beforehand now falls apart because of something that you have zero control over, like Brexit. I mean, what the fuck, man? How do you, like, you look Lucy in the eyes and you're like, how do you dig yourself out from that hole?
Actually, the solution was not that hard, and we just didn't think about it before. And I think we were just really focusing on showing the world a massive success. I think me as well, like, you fire me, don't worry, I'm gonna show you I can come back even harder than you. But I just take the phone and call all the recruiters and said, do you have any freelance work? And because of my experience, and I had worked with them because I recruit many of my designers through them, like, need no problem. And within a week and a half, I was booked for a couple of months. So just to get back a bit of money.
What a relief, huh?
That was a risk. But there is very lucky to be in London, and a place where a lot of jobs happening, and to be a bit of, and yeah, to be a good designer in some ways.
Let's go back to the Wern and the work you guys are doing. One thing I think you proud yourself of now, and you mentioned it briefly, is that you get to do work that you're proud of.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest draws the startup world has. You have an idea and you want to be, in full control of how this idea comes across, its execution and stuff like that. But it comes at a price. What did you have to give up in life, in your professional career, in order to get to a point where you produce work that you're proud of, that you choose your customers?
I think the main one is stability, and that's why I only now at 34 years old start to do my own stuff, because you can say anything you can with big company, but they give you stability. When you know your paycheck arrive and you clock at 9, you clock at 6, it's done. Obviously, when you get more responsibility, you get emails and call late and stuff, but you can just go in the weekend and don't think too much about your work. So I think you definitely gave up some sanity and some peace of mind. You kind of always on, and even more now with social media, even though I'm not too affected, but I see other like constantly you promote, you talk about people, you need to engage about people on social media to make sure they feel part of your story and to have a better connection and engagement. So it can be really consuming. It's basically, yeah, you give up a lot of your time and a lot of space in your brain. Basically, you just get like, okay, half nice for my work promotion and the stress and everything. I think that's what you give up the most.
And how about the other aspects? So if you're a creative director, creativity is key to your ability to perform. But when you're hindered by the life situation and by running your own business, which means that you essentially have to also do the accounting.
Yeah.
You have to do the marketing. You have to manage the freelancers if you work with them. So you do have to give up some elements of the creativity. So how do you get to do all the technical, gray, uninteresting parts of your work and still have enough creativity left to produce work that you're proud of?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I didn't say it before. And yeah, you do give up a lot of your creative time. Like one thing is hard, and I'm still learning to do it better and more efficiently and using less time, is all the account management and all the administrative behind it you need to do. Before I could block myself a day of work. Like I would go in a room and just do creative stuff, and that's it. And I'm very good at directing people to do stuff, so I'm very good at that. But now I need actually to manage and to make sure that I reply on time to the clients, the timeline is right, the price are right, everything is signed off. I'm not saying like, hopefully we have an accountant and Lucy helped me a lot with the money, but it's so much more stuff to do. And I think with pure honesty, before, even when I was a creative director and a lot of stuff was done by my designer, I was at least having like 60% creative and 40% admin and managing people and meetings. And now I would be potentially more 60% admin, managing clients and client prospect, and 40% creative.
When you look at where you are now and where you were when you started, the good and the bad, right? It's not only that and only that. Are you happy with the life you've built?
Yeah. I think I would never imagine I would be there. Like, never. First of all, because I know I was creative. It was very hard to know where I was going to end up. And I didn't know a clear vision where I was going to be. But yeah, no, I'm very happy. I mean, I can't. It's hard because you always want more, especially now. Go back to the social media, like the perception of what you should have. But when you look back now, I'm very, from where I'm come from, I'm very happy where I'm a very lucky man, if I can say that this way. It's stressful, but I'm very lucky.
You can definitely say that. And if we're looking for the story behind the brand, then I have to say your authenticity comes across. You can't fake it.
No.
And between you and Lucy, you've built a PR company that can't fake it. You work with customers you like and that you are proud of, and you produce work that you are proud of, and it goes a really, really long way. I want to talk about Lucy's book for a second, but before we do that, do you have any advice for founders who are now building their company? So in the initial stage, how to think about that story, how to bring that story forward?
I think, and I'm going to be very biased here, the first advice I will say, you don't need to spend a lot of money for doing so, but it's very important to understand who you are in your story when you start, even before thinking about a logo, color, or the way you're going to do your stuff. Find a company a bit like us and book an hour coaching with a branding specialist and try to understand your story and who you are. And when you have that down, when you have your mantra, when you have your brand value, when you really understand, your graffiti moment, graffiti artist moment lead you to be who you're doing now, or anything. And when you understand that and you can sit on paper like, okay, now my head is clear. I know exactly what I want to say. You might change moving forward and with everything you're gonna learn. But at least you're gonna have a start. And when you have that, I think that's a good base to start. Then you can do your design yourself using Keynote, anything, because it's very simple to find a font and a color or something. It's not outrageously disgusting and it will work for you. But you're gonna have at least a point of reference, thinking like, okay, I'm playful and I know I'm playful, so therefore I need to make sure that the font I'm gonna choose and the color is a bit playful.
I want to break it down to two things I'm taking from what you said. One is that the entry into using PR or branding agency is not a £3,000, $5,000 retainer for the next 6 months.
No.
Sometimes this is what is perceived to be the barrier of entry. And you're saying, no, it's not actually. You can do, short-term, super focused coaching.
That's why Lucy started the Wern 5 years ago, and that's why I joined the Wern for doing the branding side of it. The same thinking that Lucy do the PR side of it is we have to start thinking that it's extremely expensive. We have to start thinking that there is only one way, one package.
Where can we learn more about you and Lucy and the work you guys are doing?
Where?
Well,
Lucy doing amazing work on Instagram. The Wern chat. She shared a lot of tips, branding, day life, and understanding of the PR world and branding world. We have as well a website, thewern.com, where we try to put as much as possible tips, video, and always like when we go, we're doing quite a lot of talks and masterclass, and you can attend. Most of them are free, some are not, but they're really expensive. And on LinkedIn as well, quite a lot.
Excellent. We'll post the handles and everything in the links of the podcast. There's also a few things you've brought with you guys. There's this, and this is a Lucy Warner, Hype Yourself. It's a book that Lucy had written, a no-nonsense PR toolkit for small businesses. And I've been following your guys' work for a year now, and highly actionable. Everything that's written there was written in metaphorical blood and is worth listening to. So this can be purchased through the website, and so much of the content is already out there in its free form. So 100% check it out. And you also had this little thing, 52 PR tips, which is an excellent thing to have on your desk. And when you're fiddling around or waiting for a meeting, just have a read and see what goes on. For example, nail your one-liner. Journalists don't have time to decipher what your business does. Make sure you can summarize it in one sentence that can evolve, but define it from the start. Thank you so much for your original story, for sticking to your professional and creative truth, and for making it all the way here today.
Pleasure.
Pleasure having you around. Thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you, Tal.